Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about trans fats. This is a topic that doesn't come up enough, so let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Now, the title of the video was a bit tongue-in-cheek, because you always got a joke, because there'll be a bunch of social justice warriors now in the modern world, today's day, 2017, will see the word trans fats and be like, hey, we need to accept those trans fats as healthy fats because they self-identify as them. Didn't you guys hear about margarine? And that's a bit tongue-in-cheek. I'm kind of joking there. But we know that's not the case. But the reality is, for people who don't know what trans fats are vegetable oils that have gone through a process, a chemical process that has forced hydrogen into the bonds to change the structure of normally polyunsaturated fats and make them more stable at room temperature. Okay. In other words, this is one of the preservatives that's in your food. And when people talk about preservatives, they just use that random word. People say, "Oh, yeah, preservatives are bad," except that tons of people eat insane amounts of preservatives on a daily basis. This is an example of a preservative, one of them. And preservatives is a general category. It's not a set of chemical structures like you can say, oh, preservatives all are this type of chemical. They're not. There's a wide variety of substances. This is a common preservative. And the reason polyunsaturated fats generally go bad very, very quickly. They go rancid very fast. However, they're used for baking. Almost all your oils. I mean, think about all the stuff that people bake. Tons of pastries, breads, things like that. People use vegetable oil in them as part of the mixture. It gives them the consistency they want. Right? So trans fats are used as either polyunsaturated fat vegetable oils, or they're used as things like vegetable shortening, all of that stuff, and they're used in most of your modern sweets. Again, this is one of the reasons that sweets are a problem. They're high fat, high refined sugar, but they're usually high in refined fats, and that's the best way to think of trans fats, is refined fats. Now, this has been done because it makes food taste slightly better, particularly if it's more than a day or two old. Like anything that's been baked that's a couple days old, which is most of what you're buying at the store, maybe even what you have for leftovers, it doesn't taste as good a couple days later. If you want to maintain that flavor, different types of preservatives help. In this case, trans fats keep the oils in there fresh. They keep them from going rancid. They're more stable. They don't break down as easier. They don't decay or go bad as easier. All right? The problem is that it turns out these things are really, really unhealthy. All right? But researchers didn't know that initially. A bunch of food companies came up with this idea of even margarine at one time to replace butter because all the available data told us, large amounts of saturated fat is bad. And that still stands. But instead of saying, hey, let's just find other foods to replace butter, now you have people trying to do coconut oil for the same stuff, and it turns out coconut oil isn't that great, and that's what the current debate is too. Like, hey, let's see if we can create new foods to replace butter. And the problem with that is that in this case, they made something worse than butter. They made margarine, which is a trans fat, which they've taken vegetable oils and made it stable, made it solid when it's cool, right? Other than now that it turns out, and we've known this for 20 years, the researchers have been saying this for 20 years. The American Heart Association, the American Dietetics Association, they're all saying trans fats are bad. We need to pull them out of our foods completely. That's what they've been saying in the United States. The top researchers in the United States have been saying for 20 years we need to outlaw putting this stuff in our food. It needs to be made illegal. This stuff is terrible. It's worse than saturated fat. And we know that trans fats tend to elevate LDL cholesterol, and there's more than one type of LDL cholesterol. Some of it's benign, some of it's bad. It elevates the bad LDL cholesterol, and it lowers HDL, your good cholesterol, in addition to the fact that it seems to impact insulin resistance. So when we start looking at that, this is a substance that even in relatively small amounts can have a measurable contribution to cardiovascular disease and a measurable contribution to diabetes. Well, what ended up happening here in the United States, and I can't speak to other countries, I know I've got audiences in different countries, you guys will have to research your own laws. Well, in the U.S., the ADA pushed Congress so hard saying we have to get this stuff outlawed. We have to get it outlawed. We can't feed this to people. You have to make it illegal to feed this to people, just like you would regulate a drug. It's bad. It's killing people. The problem is that a bunch of food manufacturers jumped in and said, hey, we can't do that. We need these for preservatives. We need these for flavored food. Even chefs and bakers were coming forward saying, hey, we have to have this to make our food taste good. You know, because people can't just eat normal foods. And in America, we have to have hyper palatable foods or it doesn't taste good. If it doesn't have so much flavor in it that you would never find it that way anywhere in nature, it's not acceptable. So regular food just grown. You can't just eat baked or grilled meat. You can't just eat vegetables. They have to have stuff put all of it to make it taste great, to make it hyper palatable, or they don't like it. We become spoiled in that regard. So, you know, even bakers understand, restaurants where you say, no, we can't do this. So, Congress compromised and said, we're going to put labels on there. And this is where I always tell people, you know, and this is where my politics come in, you can't trust government to do anything. Don't trust government. Government is incompetent. Government is corrupt. Governments are always easily corrupt. I don't care who's in power, which party, which group, which ideology. Government is inherently corruptible, and you should always minimize its control over your life. It's not looking out for your best interest, and this was a perfect example. See, but here's the thing. They made some clauses in the labels. And now people go and read the labels because Congress said they wrote laws, and the FDA enforces these laws, that trans fats have to be labeled in the grams on there. Well, the interesting thing, you guys ever notice, you go look at products that now say 0 grams of trans fats, but you look at the product, and if you understand what trans fats are, you go, that whole food is a trans fat. How does this butter substitute have 0 grams of trans fats? Well, because they wrote some clauses in there. Number one, if it contains less than 1 gram of trans fats per serving. 1 gram of trans fats per serving. So you might have 20 servings in the container, and if you got 5 grams of trans fat in each serving, 10 grams of trans fat in that container, they can write 0. Well, the problem with that is that 0.5 gram of trans fats every day can have a significant impact on your health. Over time, that can negatively impact you. Below their threshold for labeling can hurt you. Number two, some of the companies said, hey, we need to get these partially hydrogenated oils removed from this trans fat list. And this is the kicker. And Congress said, okay, well, we'll allow the partially. Well, here's the thing. Partially hydrogenated vegetable oils are the most common type of trans fat used to preserve food. See the problem here? So now those aren't put on the label as a trans fat. So you can have foods that are 50% plus trans fat by calorie that now have 0 grams of trans fats on the label. Well, the consumer, if they're ignorant, they don't know any better, they don't realize they're consuming. I'll give you perfect examples, butter substitutes. How about unnatural peanut butter? You go grab some peanut butter, regular old peanut butter, not the natural kind, and you flip it over on the back. It says 0 grams of trans fats, but it's like 80% fat by calorie. Then you look at it and go, wait a minute, it's all these polyunsaturated fats. This food is like at least 30 to 40% polyunsaturated fat. But then you go down and read and it's partially hydrogenated. What? In the ingredients section. Go to the ingredients section, and anytime you see the word partially hydrogenated or you see vegetable shortening, that is a trans fat every single time. So you go over there and you look at that, and then you realize that peanut butter in that jar, and the entire jar probably exceeds the safe limit of trans fat for an entire year. And people don't know. So then they go eat this regular peanut butter, or they go buy this butter substitute, because they don't look. How about they go buy this cheese? You know, a lot of cheeses that you're buying aren't actual real cheese. They're just trans fats. They've taken vegetable oil and hydrogenated it to make it into cheese. So when people put cheese on something, you go to a restaurant or you go to a barbecue or whatever, if they just bought the cheapest cheese on the shelf, it's not actually cheese. It's just a trans fat. And then people eat the trans fats without knowing it. It's in a ton of stuff. You go look at various snacks, every now and then you'll find some of your bread, some of your tortillas have trans fat. You know, carbs, even refined carbs aren't bad the way people have made them out to be. Just from a demographics perspective, they don't cause the problems that people think they do. When you start adding trans fats to them, You start adding high fructose corn syrup and trans fats together into some breads, then you've got a problem. It's not the grains that's the problem. It's the other stuff they start adding up into it. So a lot of people think that they're eating no trans fats and they don't realize it. From a food perspective, out of all the macronutrients that are out there, trans fats are probably the worst, probably worse than high fructose corn syrup, worse than table sugar. On a gram per gram basis, they're dramatically worse. It's probably the worst thing that has been marketed to us as food that we eat. Probably the worst thing. Arguably, but I think that it is the worst thing we eat. Yet it's in tons of foods. You go look at various snacks, pastries, cakes, pies. There's trans fats in there. If you read the ingredients, anytime you see the word partially hydrogenated or you see vegetable shortening, that's a trans fat. But then you go see the thing and it says 0 grams. In fact, when you go look at foods, you go look through all the snack foods and the labels will all say 0 grams of trans fats. You could probably find at any grocery store 50 different products that have a significant amount, or a lot even, of trans fats. The label says 0 grams, but then you read the ingredients and kind of do the math yourself and you realize it's chock full of them. People are eating them unknowingly. And that's the thing, when you're eating anything that's been refined, it's not that all refined foods are bad, that you need to know what's been done to it. The ingredients list tells you the truth because they have to tell you what's in it. They have to tell you what's in it, even if the laws allow for that label of 0. And this is a real problem because, again, this is one of the worst foods we eat. And you'd be surprised how many foods you go eat that they taste really good, and you start looking at it, it's loaded full of trans fats, loaded full of high fructose corn syrup. And people say, well, I don't care, it's not stopping me from getting shredded. Well, over time, what's it going to do to you in 10 years if you're eating that every day, even if you have a healthy lifestyle? It can add up. It can add up. And as far as other trans fats, what else has trans fats? When you fry foods in vegetable oil, when vegetable oils are taken very, very hot and foods are put in them, it actually converts some of the vegetable oil into trans fats, and that's been documented. I'm going to link a link from the Mayo Clinic down under here. But that's what happens. That's what happens. So people need to be educated on this. They need to be aware on this, and it's not something anyone really talks about. And again, something maybe we really should start talking about more, because no one is talking about it anymore in YouTube fitness that I see. You need to be aware of it. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.